So today I'm really excited to break down a book that's been incredibly useful to me, and that's Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. If you ever looked at your website, your company, how you talk to customers, thought it's too complicated, we need a better way to help people understand this is it. It's a simple framework that anyone can use to break down the complex parts of your business and use storytelling as a vehicle to make it simple and relatable and drive real results. If you had to pick just one guiding principle to take away from StoryBrand, it's this: if you confuse, you lose. No shot. And really, what's happening out there in the market today that the author was saying is that companies are navel gazing. They're talking about themselves and spewing out all this noise, all these random facts that no one cares about on their website, and maybe it's packaged up in a pretty form. It's happening on sales conversations, and maybe people are packaging up in a slick pitch, but really it's not putting the customer at the center, and it's just really creating two massive grave mistakes. Number one, it's not tapping into survivorship, right? How does this help me survive and thrive in my life as the hero of my story? People want things that will help make their life better. And if you're always talking about your company and how great your stuff is before you've really earned a right to, it's not going to work that well. And number two, you're just causing me to burn way too many mental calories, right? I don't want to dig through just pages and pages of stuff just to understand what you even do and how you can help make my life better. And so that's why the book says the companies that are going to win in today's noisy world are the ones who embrace this filter mentality, who filter everything through this lens of a story that helps your customers very clearly picture how this factors into their life. To put it simply, people don't buy the best products, they buy the products they can understand the fastest. And so if your message isn't crystal clear, nobody's going to listen to you, nor should they. There's a few easy ways to evaluate whether you have a clear message or not. Basically, can you say it really clearly? If you went to anyone in your company and asked, would they know it off the top of their heads? And is it simple and relevant and repeatable? Something where you can tell it to your mom and she can tell it to someone else really quickly without having to memorize some spiel. So one of the best ideas you have in your arsenal to boil down these complex ideas into simple, bite-sized, easy to understand things are stories. And the way he puts it is the more simple and predictable the communication, the easier it is for the brain to digest. So story is really helping because it's a sense-making mechanism. And so we get to the good stuff, the StoryBrand framework. These are 7 steps that you can look at across all kinds of movies, everything from Star Wars to The Bourne Identity to classic novels everyone's heard of. And you can pull apart these timeless lessons that everyone's familiar with and plug the different parts of your business and make your customer the hero of their story. And so it's pretty simple. There's a few parts. There's a character, and we really want to make this the customer as the hero of your story and not your company, which is a huge mistake a lot of people like to make. So really, just like if you're watching a movie, you would never want to be able to pause and not understand a few things. We want this to be true about our business as well. And the 3 things are: what does the hero want right now? What are they doing? What's the context? Why do I care? The second thing is who or what is opposing this hero getting what they want. You know, in Star Wars, it's the Death Star and this evil alliance. Who is that for your business? What's the villain? And then we want to really have a really clear idea of what the hero's life is going to look like if they do or don't get what they want through this thing. We want to have stakes. We want to be invested. So those 3 things can make a huge difference. And it's kind of a litmus test for telling us if we're on track or not. But along with that, we always want to make sure whenever we're talking about our business that we're keeping things simple. There's a really fun example that they throw in here called the Grunt test, which if you've ever seen those Geico caveman commercials, you know, where it's super simple, you know, even a caveman could do it. We want to be at that level of, well, no duh, messaging that anyone can understand, even by grunting in caveman-like sentences in just a few seconds. And so if you can kind of get your messaging kind of in this dumbed down state where you just understand, you know, what you're offering, how it makes your life better, what I need to do to buy it. So as we start to build out this journey, we have to start with the customer and making them care. Because the reality is most customers don't get this right. They don't provide people a hook in, a reason to care. But one easy way to do this is by using this storytelling element called a story gap. And this is really just sparking curiosity by clearly laying out where someone is today and where they want to be, and just that gap in between of that tension. Oh, this is where you are today. Here's where we want you to be. What can you do to close that gap? And then we have to set up a problem that people will actually care about. And there's really three types of problems that we can think about. We have external problems, and these are what most companies really focus on. They're tangible, they're external. It's kind of the obvious one that comes to mind. But the thing is, they're not always necessarily the most effective problem to hit on by itself. Really what we want to do is go into that second category of these internal problems. These are really why a lot of people buy on an emotional level. What are these deep fears that they experience, these anxieties, these problems that they would pay anything to make it go away? And if we can get those two things right, we can even bring things together into more of a movement and create sort of a philosophical problem. And so this is really about what wrong that you are helping make right in the world. Another really helpful thing for us to do is to create a villain that we can position our company against to really clarify the problem that the hero is going to run into. And so there's four things we got to keep in mind for characteristics here. Number one, the villain should really be a root source here. The second thing is that the villain has to be relatable, right? They should be able to recognize it, understand it, and feel a strong reaction. Like, oh, no website traffic, tons of people would feel that right in the gut. The other thing is the villain has to be singular, right? So if you're stacking up all these problems, your email list is falling behind. Wow, you need more website traffic, all these things. It just, you kind of get this whole horde of things, and it's not very clear. It's very muddled, and it's kind of overwhelming too. And the last thing, the villain should really have to be real. You don't want to come off as a fearmonger, just adventuring things, conjuring things that aren't really there, and just kind of being a worrywart in general. You want to pick one villain, but the right villain. So once you've done those things, you've kind of hooked your character in with a curiosity gap, you've created this big bad villain and made the problem abundantly clear. Now it's time for you and your company to position yourself as this trusted guide. Think of in the movie Star Wars when Luke Skywalker goes looking for the little green alien Yoda as his kind of enwizened mentor, and he trains him and shows him the plan to success. So the book really breaks down two key principles that make a guide compelling. The first one is empathy. Brands need to really understand their customers and earn the right to help them, right? If they feel like you don't understand where they're at or what they're going through right now, they're not going to want to trust you as easily. The second thing that you want to hit on is authority, right? You don't want a guide who doesn't know what they're talking about and doesn't bring any special skills to the table and can't really help you solve this big problem that is such a big burden in your life. You need both empathy and authority together, and that's what makes a great guide. If you need to bump up the authority your company has as a trusted guide, there's four things you can sprinkle in to kind of increase your credibility. The first one is testimonials. Use your customers' words because they're the best marketing you have. Second one, toss in some statistics to show the scope of what you're talking about, show that it's serious, show that you have a deep knowledge in this thing. If you have any awards, toss that in too. If you are one of the best marketing firms in the country, if you are certified in things, if you've gone through some kind of specialized process or training, make sure that people know about it. And then the last one, logos of people you've helped, right? It's easy to see, if I'm really worried that I'm signing up for some software tool, but I don't know if other people have used this besides me, hopefully. If you can toss in some logos that people would recognize, that make them feel like, oh, I see myself on this page, they're way more likely to trust you and assume that you have authority in this thing. Once you're established as a guide that cares about your customer or your hero and has authority in what they're talking about, you need to give them a clear plan. And the best plans really do two types of things. One, they make it really clear the next steps you have to take for a customer to do business with you. We call this a process plan. So start from the beginning, lay out a few steps of what to expect and kind of what gets them to that end state. So there's no ambiguity, there's no fear lurking around in their minds, and they can just run with it. The second thing is an agreement plan, right? So this really, we talked about that fear that can come up throughout the process and the problem with that villain. This is where you can anticipate the objections they're going to have, what they're going to be feeling, what might stop them from being successful, and bring up these relevant, helpful answers or resources before they really run into them. They help set the stage for what we're about to do next, which is to challenge your customer to take decisive action. They got to wake up, because just like Newton's law, if a customer is at rest, they're probably going to stay at rest unless some other positive force acts on it, and that force has to be you. You can't leave things to chance and expect customers to just motivate themselves and figure it all out on their own. So you have to have a clear call to action, a CTA. And so the best CTAs, according to the book, have 3 characteristics. 1, staking a claim to your territory. Again, hitting on that thing of what you're talking about, and so you need to do this next. The second thing is create reciprocity, right? So maybe you're doing something like offering a free consultation, providing a free guide, something to move them forward and giving them something to get them to take that next step. And then again, whenever we're asking people to take this next step, we're always positioning ourselves as the guide, right? We're not doing it for them, but we're saying, hey, we've given you the plan. The problem is real. If you do this next step, trust us, here's what's going to happen. But we're not out of the woods yet. Once we know the next step to take, we have to keep following up and make sure that our customer knows what's really at stake here. And so we have to clarify this with what we call a fear appeal. Because you see, a lot of businesses make this mistake of leaving out the risk and the dangers customers face because they don't want to be a bummer. They don't want to be sort of this, sad sack by just talking about all the things that go wrong. But if you don't talk about that, it just leaves this void. And your customer is going to get through all this stuff, hear your CTA, hear your plan, and just think, well, so what? What if I just keep doing what I have been doing? What if I do something else? What's the worst thing that could happen, or what's realistically going to happen? And so the solution to this is to just be really upfront with what's actually at stake here, what's on the table. And so we want to make a fear appeal in 4 simple steps. We want to really alert them to the danger at hand. What's really the downside of this thing that we know a lot about going wrong? Why is it impactful? The second thing is we want to lead them to think about ways to reduce the risk and let them know that, hey, you're not just a passive actor here. There's things that you can do. And that earns the right for us to set up the solution that they can take. Again, we've talked about the call to action, but we have to do both things at once. Let them know what's at stake and the solution at hand. And then you call them to take that next step, right? Make it so clear. And if they don't take it the first time, you keep guiding them along to do that, because they know, if I don't, this isn't going to end the best. It won't end well. And if they take all those other steps, right? We hook them in, we lay out the problem, they meet a guide, we give them a plan, we call them to action, let them know the stakes. We also have to paint a picture of what success looks like. So we really want to show them what their life will look like when they win. What are we helping them complete? What status are we bringing to their lives? What is fixed or better than it was before? Really show them what it looks like to reach their potential. And so this is so powerful because you have both sides, right? The fear of what can go wrong, but also the hope and the dream of clearly understanding everything that can and should go right once they follow our plan. All right, so we've gone through this framework, and now you have this battle-tested kit of tools that you can use to tell a great story, cut through the noise, and reach your customers. And so there's this grab bag of 5 things that you can do with this framework to impact your business and get running quickly. So I'm going to lay them out really quick. The first one, create a one-liner for your business, right? Let's take that story that we summed up and can we cram it into just a few words that we tell people to get them interested, to understand their place as the hero, and kind of our plan for success and what's at stake. And then can we spread that to the rest of our team, get everyone talking the same language, use that in our ads, use that on our homepage. Where could this be effective, and where are people getting confused where this one-liner can make all the difference by simplifying things down? The next thing we can do is, because we went through all that work to think about, what the plan is, what's at stake, what we can do better. This lends itself really well to what we call a lead magnet, where you can boil that down into a checklist, into an ebook, into a video webinar, maybe even a live event, and you can help people understand the process that they go through, the plan that you have, your role as this guide who has empathy for them, and this great authority and this expertise that you've built up. And this is a great way, before they even buy from you, that they can get a taste of all that goodness. The next thing you can do is take the information you learned from that lead magnet, again, all the same elements from the story, and then put it in an email, right? It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be fancy, but tell people about the pain that they're encountering, position yourself as that guide, tease the plan, and then let them know the cost of failure and the dream of what's going to change in their life when things succeed. The last two things, again, super helpful, are collecting a bunch of testimonials and then getting your customers to refer or invite other customers. Once you have a story that people can wrap their head around, this is so helpful because you can document, hey, real proof of people who went through this thing, and now you have your own heroes who can represent your brand to other people. And an easy way, low-hanging fruit to get them to bring in other people or to get more value out of that is just to get them to refer other people, right? Ask them, give them the tools, maybe even reward them with an incentive, but get them to refer other people like them and just share their story in their own words. So that's StoryBrand. Super helpful framework. It's not super complicated. It's very accessible. So I recommend this book if you're looking to cut down on the noise of your marketing. Get back to the basics. Make your story resonate with people. And if you're working on a new website, maybe you're just getting started in a marketing role, or maybe you just feel like you need just a fresh approach, a fresh outsider's perspective on what your business does and how you help people and how you can talk about that in a non-scummy sounding way. This book is great for that, so go check it out, and I hope it's really helpful. As always, you can check out all the book notes at mattwoods.io and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at justthegoodparts. I'll see you there.